As they strolled down along the city streets, beautiful as they were, and though Ash could rarely keep his eyes off of them, and the people who walked upon them, lest he be swept up in heavy thought and endless daydreams, as he could hardly keep his mind from the stir, or that is, what he oftentimes called it, the stir, for as the city stirred, his mind so did as well, and an intelligence that perhaps many a woman or man did not possess, yet too brewed therein. He wandered there in the city alongside Harken, within his mind thinking to himself of nothing in particular, and yet everything that could give to him any importance. The thought of the woman he once loved, of young poor Eve, his sweet fiancée, slipping finally from his mind as he pushed his way forward through the crowds, making certain to stay alongside Harken's side. And as their pace quickened, so did too the size of the crowd that they entered through, approaching a long, sturdy yet old building not far off from where they had come in from, a narrow street that acted as a sort of funneling passage into the square in which they now stood, amongst the crowd bustling and stirring and shouting and speaking, eating its way in and out of the area through neighboring streets. It was a beautiful building, the architecture of which was artistically and cleverly constructed and refined. There were animals carved in its facade and front exterior walls, though it was not clear as to what each of them were. Some were obvious, others more obscure and fantastical in nature. However, what clearly struck Ash more poignantly was that of the lion's head, which was embroidered and etched therein near the center of the edifice out of a marble sort of stone, same as the rest of it, yet strikingly, dislodgingly different from it. Why this was at first Ash was uncertain, though it became clear to him in moments' time that it was because the lion was dead, or dying rather, and because it resembled something akin to a serpent beast, with a lion's mane, which was strange to him as he had never seen anything quite like it before. In fact, this was the first time, interestingly enough, that he had encountered such a beast, such a monster as this one. He wondered who was it who had created such fine pieces of artwork. It must have been before his time, he surmised, but when he did not know, as he had had a few educators growing up, did not know the ins and outs of each building or piece of information about the city. Harken thereby enlightened him. This is the edifice of the Statue of Light. Ash looked at Harken curiously. Statue? There is a statue, Harken explained further, much like the statue of the Lorena Lucia, which we have just today visited. Is there? Ash inquired with a nod towards the lion serpent. Pray tell me, what is this here? Harken smirked. Caught your eye, did it? Ash nodded back. That is the dying lion serpent of the western lands, the means of which we do not yet have to explore, the distance by which we have no way of traveling, Harken explained. We do not know if they are real. Ash nodded and said, after a moment of thought, I could sail there. Could you? Harken asked. Ash nodded again. I could, Harken. Harken smiled and with a pat on Ash's shoulder told him, Come, I have more to show you. And so Ash did as he was told and continued alongside Harken to view the rest of the city, or rather the parts which Harken most needed to highlight to him as they made their way through in between the edifice of the Statue of Light and onto another area of the city, this one narrower, the streets of which snaked and curved nearly perplexedly in patterns unrecognizable to unfamiliar eyes such as Ash's. And so he pressed the question of where it was they were going, but Harken, unlike his usual self, said nothing and did nothing except lead the way forward through the somewhat bustling crowds of men and women, the people afoot. Ash did the same after but a moment and continued onward alongside him, quiet and tired. We'll have you complete another contract, said Harken, only somewhat reluctantly. Doing what? Ash inquired. It's a rather large job, but with Darius' help, the guild and I... Herrick and you, Ash interjected. Yes, said Harken, but continued as if Ash hadn't interrupted. But the guild and I believe that you're ready to undertake this next assignment and that you should finish it somewhat easily. Great, said Ash, hiding his nervousness, as he did feel quite nervous about the way that Harken had presented this next contract. Easy for me is good for my nerves, and payment will do nicely if you can afford it. You'll be paid, said Harken, laughing, but I hope that you remember that you are among brothers, and that you truly do not need payment. I know, said Ash, his mind beginning to focus. Tell me, what is the next contract? You'll infiltrate the royal palace. To do what? To hold a woman ransom. Ash stopped a moment, his sudden sense of morality budging him. Is that what you would ask of me? It's what the guild asks of you, Ash. Harken stated. "We want you to hold the princess, Princess Ariana." "I know the princess name," Ash stated back through gritted teeth. "Nonetheless, you'll hold her ransom, or Darius will. You do not wish to be cast out, so you'll join him, and together you'll finish the contract. It's rather simple. First you capture the princess, and you leave a well-written note on her table within her chambers, and afterwards you bring her back to the center, where she'll be locked up and kept for safekeeping." "Why are we kidnapping her?" Ash asked angrily. "We need the money for our cloaked men. There's more and more joining every day, you know, and we need to maintain the firepower necessary to keep those in power at bay. They're corrupt, you know." Ash nodded. "You're not wrong about that. They steal money from the common folk every day, and within the city there are more and more living on the streets, though disease has yet to take them, according to our reports." "Well, that end part is good," said Ash. "I'll find Darius and get to it." "Make sure that you do," Harken nodded, parting ways with Ash as they exited the center. "Find me later at my store. I have something new for you to try out." "A new gun?" Ash asked. "Just meet me there. I must be going now." Ash nodded as he watched Harken walk into a crowd of people. Ash nodded his head towards himself and muttered, "I guess that's all my instruction for now."